My name is Michelle Mendoza. Today is April 7th, 2021, and I will be presenting my IKEA individual case analysis for Capstone 499. I will begin with a brief introduction of the case. IKEA is the largest furniture retailer in the world, and they have expanded their domestic operations to several countries since its humble beginnings. Within this particular case, India was next in IKEA's agenda to diversify its operations abroad. It took IKEA 12 years to finally open a store in India. Although it took several years to be finally granted permission to open operations in India, IKEA was not clear because it still had even more challenges after its entry into the Indian market. There are several incentives that attracted IKEA to India. On a technical level, there are opportunities to integrate operations on a global scale, as well as gain access to consumers in emerging markets. India presented to be a very attractive market, offering a lot of potential as it was growing its furniture industry. More particularly, the home furniture was the largest segment. There was also changing consumer preferences as customers demanded stylish and quality furniture. Overall, IKEA had the task to tweak its global store model to adapt to the new Indian culture. Here is an analysis outline of my presentation. I will begin with the international strategy used by IKEA, choice of international entry mode, and finally the problems that IKEA is facing, government regulations, location, and consumer behavior. IKEA uses an international corporate level strategy because they are a multinational corporation whose worldwide operations are controlled by the parent company. More specifically, they use a global strategy, which is where a firm's home office determines the strategies that business units are to use in each country. This is a good strategy for IKEA because they are able to reap the benefits of increased market size, economies of scale, and location advantages. IKEA has implemented a global strategy because this particular strategy stresses the need to gain economies of scale by offering standardized products across markets. They have a centralized number of activities like furniture design and flat packaging. I believe that they have selected the correct strategy because a global strategy has an emphasis on global efficiencies, which benefits IKEA. Since it's such a huge retail store, they thrive on economies of scale. And IKEA strives to provide affordable products through their integrated cost leadership / differentiation strategy, and the global strategy perfectly aligns with their mission. IKEA's mode of entry into India is through a greenfield venture. This mode of entry is when a firm invests directly in another country or market by establishing a new wholly owned subsidy. And a newly owned subsidy is a corporation with 100% shares held by another corporation, aka the parent company. In the case of IKEA, the parent company is INGKA Holdings. As you can see here in the image, this corporate structure divides IKEA's physical stores and building process from IKEA's concept and trademark control. This way, they can ensure operational control, standardization, and carry a smooth transition into a new market. Additionally, it also reduces the risk of losing control over their core competencies, keeping their global model as intact as possible when entering new markets. Since IKEA already has previous experience working with the Indian market with their supplier relationships, a greenfield venture is preferred. Next, I will be talking about the following three problems: government regulation, location, and customer behavior, and I will address alternatives for resolutions as well as the best course of action. In regards to government regulations, policies of individual governments affect how firms compete within the boundaries governing a particular economy. In the case of India, they have stringent regulations on foreign retailers. The foreign direct investment restrictions on local sourcing stated that IKEA should be complying with sourcing 30% of their goods from small Indian industries. Thus, 30% of IKEA's inventory must be made in India, which was proven to be a challenging task because first, It was difficult for IKEA to find expertise among small vendors. Second, it increases its supply chain inconsistencies because in terms of operational process, the mandatory regulation of Indian sourcing is seen as impractical. This sourcing clause is a political risk that IKEA has encountered upon entering an international market. The regulatory and political roadblock that IKEA kept facing was something that they had to overcome if they wished to continue their progress in India. The alternatives for resolution in this case is that it must increase its local suppliers. They should look for suppliers that share the same values as IKEA in the sense of ethical standards, as in no child labor and no discrimination among its employees. They should also probably look into strengthening established working relationship with Indian suppliers and maybe also increase the inventory that they are purchasing from them. IKEA has already previously worked alongside India in sourcing their materials because India has that established relationship with India since 1980s. It has 70 suppliers and 1,450 sub-suppliers in India. So it would be a good idea to continue maintaining those relationships to fortify that relationship. However, the best course of action that is best for IKEA would be to build strategic alliances with Indian suppliers. This can help build long-term relationships that can also be used for sourcing its global stores, not just for India itself. They can also work collaboratively with suppliers to produce more Indian relevant products, to offer exclusive designs that are more appealing to Indian customers, such as collaborating with Indian textile industries for their rugs and their fabrics for new designs for IKEA. So this is the best approach in my opinion, so it can align with Indian consumer preferences. However, regardless of what strategy India chooses to make, they still have to comply with India's sourcing policy. So might as well make the most out of it. In regards to the location issue, IKEA has to decide whether it is going to open a store in an urban center location or a suburban location. IKEA stores are typically located in suburbs because it allows for more retail space to accommodate their showroom model. Therefore, IKEA is facing existing space constraints for its location. So alternatives for resolution is either debating, are we going to choose a suburb or an urban center location? Therefore, IKEA must assess the trade-off for each location. If we look at the suburbs, the real estate acquisition is quite difficult. Their customer accessibility is low, just because the level of car ownership is low compared to Western countries, and the patchy road work makes it difficult for Indian consumers to shop at IKEA. Also, this type of model is consistent with their global model because more retail space allows for the showroom model that they're so widely known for. On the other side, we have an urban center. Real estate acquisition for an urban center location would be even more difficult. Furthermore, it would increase its setup cost. Customer accessibility would be high since it's so close to the cities. The transportation between the stores and the customers' homes is not that much of a distance. It is not consistent with the firm's global model because it would limit the retail store space, which would not allow it to have its typical walkthrough experience. So the course of action that I am proposing is that IKEA prioritizes its suburban location because IKEA values a good location. They know the benefits that they will reap if they choose a good location. So the suburban location offers larger retail space, which helps them align with IKEA's showroom model with its experience intact. The walkthrough showroom aspect that is popular and is very commonly known for IKEA. However, one thing they must consider is that the location must be walking distance of transportation hubs, since Indian consumers Some lack that transportation of their own cars. So being next to a transportation, whether it be the train or the bus stops, allows customers to have better accessibility to the store. Moving on to consumer behavior. If IKEA wants to be successful in gaining a profitable furniture market share, it must customize its products and service based on local needs to adapt to the new culture. Demand conditions is one of the 4 determinants of national advantage. By 2015, which had already passed, global furniture market was expected to reach $436.5 billion. In India, the nature and size of customers' needs in the furniture market is growing substantially. Indian customers, for instance, demand unique furniture pieces that lean towards handicraft sellers. They like this idea of a stylish, quality furniture. However, they do tend to go for individual artisans, as 85 to 90% of that furniture production comes from handicraft production. So in terms for alternatives for resolution, IKEA must rethink its DIY model. Why? Because Indian consumers prefer ready-made furniture, and that is something that does not align with IKEA's flat packaging model. Since Indian customers are accustomed to shop assistance, IKEA should probably think about increasing their in-store assistance by hiring more employees. And I believe that conducting market research is by far the most important thing that they should look into, because that will help them better understand customer shopping habits and preferences, so IKEA can gauge which direction it should go in. This can be in the form of focus groups and surveys. But overall, the one course of action that I recommend is that they must gather consumer feedback through market research. This is the best course of action because they can adapt to customer preference. In this way, I believe they can provide such services such as free assembly assistance, free delivery options, either in the format of assisted curbside pickup if they have a vehicle for transportation, or even free home delivery, so the packages can be delivered to their home for free, which will facilitate the customer experience much more, making it more appealing. These recommendations are the best approach because these services have identified areas of improvement that adapt to the new culture, which in turn will win customers over. Overall, I have covered the challenges that IKEA is facing upon entry to the Indian market. Like I mentioned before, India offers a huge market potential for IKEA, giving them access to new customers. The potential of large demand for goods and services from people in emerging markets, such as in India, is a strong incentive for IKEA to use its global international strategy. However, they must overcome the culture shock and add new services, as well as analyze which locations best serves them so they can fit into the culture. Moving from a domestic to a global international strategy is not an easy process, and it creates various strategic challenges. IKEA must consider the different culture in concern to customer preferences, legal and regulatory barriers when conducting business in foreign markets such as India if it seeks to be successful in a new market. Overall, that was my presentation for IKEA in India. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and I hope you have a wonderful day.